Today we are learning the 42nd daf, Mem Beis Amud Aleph, of Maseches Pesachim, and today is the first day of Chol Hamoed Sukkos, and Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we are going to be completing the second parak of Maseches Pesachim. We left off with a question at the bottom of Mem Aleph Amud Beis, where the Gemara had detailed that there was an Isser in eating from the Korban Pesach during the daytime if it was fully cooked. And the Gemara had said, I don't understand, how could it be that this was an Isser? Because that this is not listed as an Isser in the Torah, it is listed as a mitzvah essay to eat from the Korban Pesach at night. And the Gemara says, at the bottom of Mem Aleph Amud Beis, Rav Chisda says, Hamani, whose opinion? And this is Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds this Rashi, the Amar Lav Haba Michlal, Michal Lemar Lavhu. Anytime that you have a lav, we'll see with regards to the word lemar, contains a lav in it. The Tanya, because the Brisa says as follows: Shar v'saruva kalut. If you have an ox or a sheep, saruva kalut, that is missing or has additional parts, meaning it is a balmum in some nature. Rashi says here, saruva shuhu achas me inav gedol achas ketana. As one big eye and one little eye, or one big leg and a little leg, meaning there's stuff that's not right with it. What's kalut? She parshas klutos, that there's issues with its hooves. Says the pasuk nidava taseh. You can make it into a nidava. You can donate it to the Beis Hamikdash. Meaning you can give it to the Bedek Habayis, you can give it to the Beis Hamikdash as temple property, you can make a donation. But you can't use it as a korban. There is also an implication, but you also cannot donate a animal that could be used as a korban to the Bedek Habayis. Meaning you can donate a animal that has problems to the Beis Hamikdash, but an animal that could be used as a korban, that doesn't have any issues, that cannot be given to temple property. That can only be given as a korban. Says the Gemara, Mikan Amru. From here they said, anybody that donates a unblemished animal for to be owned by the Beis Hamikdash for temple property has violated a mitzvah essay, has violated a positive commandment in the Torah. Says Gemara, I only know that there is a positive commandment here. How do I know that there's also an isur in doing so? Meaning, I neglected to give it as a korban, so I lost out on the mitzvah's essay. But how do I know that I violated an isur? Says the Gemara Talmud Laimar, so the pasuk says, "Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimar." The most common pasuk in Torah. Hashem said to Moshe, "Leimar," saying, "Limeid al kol haparsha kula shehei beloi tasa." Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi tells us that whenever you have a leimar, that teaches you that whole parsha is contained within the same loy tase. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Amar loy, Amar loy, Rabbi Bar Kapar, my mashma. Rabbi asked Bar Kapara, my mashma. Sorry, not Rabbi Yehuda Anasi's opinion. This is Rabbi Yehuda, and then Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Then asked Bar Kapara, what exactly does this mean? That Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah was telling us that anytime that you have a leimar that includes in an isur, even though it is listed as a positive mitzvah, Amarla, he says, Tichsiv leimar, said to him, Bar Kapara said to Rabbi Yehuda, to Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, Tichsiv leimar, whenever the pasuk says leimar, it is, like Rashi says, a not trikon, it is it's a contracted statement. Loi nemar bidvarim. Leimar means loi nemar, that there is a prohibition that is being said. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe, could have just left it at that. Loi Omar, meaning to teach an isur. That's the leimar. Bei Rav Omri, in the house of Rav and Rav's yeshiva, they said leimar lav Omar, that leimar means an isur is being said here. And that would be the limud that we have by the Korban Pesach, because the pasuk introduces all of the psukim of Korban Pesach, with Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron Neymar. This is what Hashem said to Moshe and Aaron. Tosfos adds here, Limar, limit kol haparsha shei belav, that the whole parsha includes the Isser. Near Luria, it appears to the read, the Hainu Davke Bahanach Devarim, the Isbehu Lav Haba Michlal Ese. That would only be a limit with anytime that you have a lav that comes through an essay. But it's not to invent a whole bunch of new Yisurim anytime the Torah says, Hashem El Moshe Leimar. And the Gemara in Yomi, if I'm not mistaken, learns that the word Leimar in most other contexts, maybe including this context, and you have to figure out how Rabbi learns two drushes from the same pasuk. But the way Hashem Moshe Leimar teaches you that Moshe Rabbeinu was allowed to tell it to the Jewish people. Without the Leimar, you wouldn't know that you'd be allowed to tell it to other people. Maybe that's just the nevuah. That's only for the prophet that receives it. Nevertheless, says the Gemara as follows: Mei tashmisha shal nachtam, that waters that are used in a bakery, you need to spill out. You can't use them on Pesach. Says the Gemara, Tani chade one braisato chechin bimkom midran, that you have to pour them out on a sloped surface, meaning you can't have them pool. And you cannot pour it out onto flat ground, meaning onto dry ground that's got like nooks and crannies. You have another brisa that says, why not just pour it onto cracked ground and let it seep down? Says the Gemara, like kasha, that's not a contradiction. It just depends on how much water you have. If it's a lot of water, then it's all going to collect there, and then the chametz, that the flour that's in that water, is going to become chametz on your floor. But if there's not a lot of water, just pour it out wherever it is, and then it's going to seep into the ground. It's not going to be a problem. Amar Rav Yehuda said, Isha lo yitalo shel b'mayim shalanu, that a woman should not make matzah, should not knead the matzah dough, except with water shalanu, water that has rested, meaning it has to have rested. You drew the water this afternoon. You have to make sure that it rests tonight, so that tomorrow you can make the matzahs. Darsha Rav Matna be Papunya. Rav Matna taught this din over in Papunya. He said that you have to use Maim Shalana. L'machar Aisu Kula Alma Chatzvayhu Va'at L'gabe. Everybody then brought their pitchers. The next day they came to his house. They said to him, Havlamai, give us water. Because they heard him teach that you need to make sure that you make the matzahs with Maim Shalanu, which means water that rested. And then said Maim Shalanu means our water, rabbinic water. You have to have the water blessed by Rav Matna. It's a good rabbinic racket there. Everybody can only use the water of the rabbi. So he says, they said to him, give us water. He says, no, Vitu. I didn't say our water. I meant, he said it then in Aramaic, in the dialect that they understood a little better. They didn't understand Maim Shalanu meant water that rested. That Lalun means to sleep. They thought it meant Maim Shalanu, which is the more common usage of the word Shalanu. This says Maim Dvitu Amri. No. The Chacham didn't say that you have to have it meaning my water, our water. It means Maim Shalanu, water that slept, meaning water that is rested overnight. Rava said, Isha lo tolish b'chama, that a woman should not knead her matzahs in the sun, and not in water that was heated in the sun, and also not water that was collected when you were cleaning out the cauldron. That's the mulyar, meaning any water that has had any heat applied to it. And the halacha is that she should not stop working until she's finished all of the bread, meaning while she is working on the dough, while she is still baking it, she shouldn't let it stop, because that is going to, the moment that you stop working the dough is when the chimetz process begins. Shnei kelim, you need two kelim. Echad she'maktefes by, one that she uses to wet the dough. V'echad she'metzanenes by as yada, another one that she's going to cool off her hands, meaning so that her hands shouldn't be too hot. So she has to have a separate kli to be able to cool off her hands. She says the oisin shemakteves bahem micham yada va'isa, because the water that she uses to wash her hands, that barrel, that's going to become hot. It's going to become warm as a result of her hands being there. Meaning, you need to make sure that this process is as cool as possible. Ibailahu, they asked, what if she didn't listen to what the Chacham said and she did differently? She used water that was warm, or she didn't wash her hands with the right water. What happens? Marzutra says mutar, it's okay. Meaning, b'diavad, it's mutar, unless it actually was chametz. But meaning, but b'diavad, it's mutar. These are all hachakos midrabanan. The rabbanan were insistent, don't get into this mess. But if you did it, as long as it's not chametz, it's mutar. Ravashi says no, aser. That is aser. Amar Marzutra says Marzutra mina amina la. How do I know that it's mutar? The Tanya, because the Brisa says in loitz in Maseches Pesach. Don't soak the barley on Pesach, which we saw 2 blats ago. V'im losses. What happens if you did soak your barley? Nizbaku asurim. If they split open, that'd be aser. Lo nizbaku, but if they didn't, mutar, that'd be mutar. Meaning the Chacham said, don't soak it, but if you did and you know that it's not chametz, it's still okay. Rav Ashi says, no. What everybody is weaving with the same thread, everybody's weaving the same basket. It doesn't make any sense. Just because there's a heter in that particular case doesn't mean that you can apply that to all of the other cases as well. Where the Chacham said that b'diavad is mutar, it's mutar. Where they didn't say that it's mutar b'diavad, it is not mutar b'diavad. Meaning, Rashi says here, wherever the Chacham said explicitly that it's mutar. That's where we don't apply the knas, itmar. Meaning we don't penalize you for disregarding the words of the Chachamim. Whether the Chacham didn't tell you that it's okay b'diavad, then it's not okay b'diavad. And therefore, if she used hot water, if she used hot water, then it is almost as if she did so intentionally for aser, and the Chacham said no, that's still going to be aser. And this is not like the din of b'tekel shel nachrim, etc., etc. The logic behind this seems to be incredibly reasonable. That when it comes to this, these isurim, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell by looking at it where the chimutz has occurred. They might have begun the process of chimutz with a little bit of warm water to listen to the chacham, as opposed to the barley, where the Mishnah gives you the Brisa gives you a very clear indication. If it looks like, if you see that it's split, then it's split. But if it didn't, then you could assume that it's okay. And Hadran Allah Kol Shah, we will return to you. The parak of Kol Shah, beginning of the 3rd parak of Maseches Pesachim. We're on Mem Beis Amud Aleph, and the Mishnah says as follows: Ve'elu Ovrim Pesach, and these are the things that you violate the isur of owning chametz on Pesach, and they are. We're going to get some recipes. They are kutach habavli, Babylonian kutach, which is a cheese dip, v'shecher hamadi, and the beer of the Medes, which is different from mead, but the beer of the Madai, chometz ha-edomi, and the vinegar of Edom, v'zeisim hamitzri, and v'zeisam hamitzri, and Egyptian remedies, Egyptian medicine. V'zomin shel tzavaim, and the zoman is some kind of solution of the dyers that they would use in order to make the dye dry and hold on to the material quickly. Va'amilin shel tavachim, and the dough of cooks. V'kolin shel sofrim, and the glue of sofrim, of scribes. All of these things are things that contain within them some kind of chametz that you might have thought is not also to own, and we are saying that it is. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Av tachshite nashim." You are also forbidden from tachshite nashim, from owning women's jewelry, and we'll explain what exactly that is in the Gemara. What exactly is the problem with owning jewelry on Pesach? Zaklal, this is the rule. Kol she'u min dagan, anything that is out of a grain product. Hariza over b'Pesach, you could violate the isur of owning chametz Pesach. This is part of the isur of owning chametz Pesach. Ve'en behem mishum kares, but you don't get kares for eating these things. Rashi says, "Im achlan," if you ate it. Avalav yeshem be'achilasam, but there is an issur in eating them. It's just not an issur kares, and the Gemara is going to learn out all of these din. Says the Gemara as follows: Tanu Rabbanan, the Brisa says, "Shloisha dvarim ne'amarim b'kutei chabavli." There are three things that are stated about Babylonian cheese dip. None of them are good. Metam temes alev. It dulls the heart, and it blinds the eyes, and it weakens the body. Metam temes alev. Why does it dull the heart? Mishum nisyuv dechalva, because they put the whey into this dip, which apparently was not good. It's not good for your heart. And it blinds your eyes. Why? Mishum milcha, because of the salt. It weakens the body. Mishum kuminasa de uma, because of the moldy bread that they put into it, and that would be why you might have thought that it wasn't such an issue. Rashi says, "Ifusha pas she misafesh la'achar zman b'zeh hakutach," that you have moldy bread and it gets moldy inside of this. It's a fermented cheese, but the bread that's inside of it is moldy. Tanu Rabban, the Brisa says, "Gimel dvarim marbin hazevel." There are three things that increase a person's excrement, meaning make a person need to go to the bathroom more often. And they bend your stature. And it steals away 1/500th of the light of a person's eyes, meaning a person's eyesight. Elohim, what are they? These three things: pas kibar, which is coarse bread; shecher chadash, new beer, meaning beer that hasn't aged; v'yerek chai, and raw veggies. Rashi says here, Rashi says like raw vegetables that a person eats them raw, a lot of them often. So it's interesting that Rashi is pointing out here that it's not if you had it once. It is if this is something that a person has regularly. And question within Rashi whether that is true of all of these three things, all of these three items, or that is only true about the vegetables. Tanu Rabban, we have a brisa. There are three things that decrease the amount that a person needs to go to the bathroom. And they straighten out your posture, stature. And they enlighten your eyes, meaning they give you back your eyesight. What are they? Pasnikia, clean bread, basar shamin, and fatty meat. That means marbled meat. V'yain yashan, and old wine. And we are going to learn those three things, starting with pasnikia. We're gonna learn all of these things and discuss them tomorrow. And hoping that everybody had a wonderful day of Chol Hamoed, and we continue to be grateful and to daven for the safe return of the hostages. That this deal goes through, and that by Hoshana Rabbah, it should be, and if not before, by Hoshana Rabbah, that it should be an enormous salvation. That's Pshat. Hoshana Rabbah, at least one of three Pshatim. Hoshana Rabbah, I guess we'll discuss the rest of them as we get a little bit closer. It should be a big salvation. Be'ez Hashem.